So the other thing I wanted to chat about that's really caught my eye, and this was what I wanted to talk about before I saw the AI, was DeepSeek. So one of the things that they kind of quietly released recently was their OCR technology. So you may remember that DeepSeek was an open source AI model that had thinking capabilities, but it was also trained on far less resources than some of the frontier models while getting similar results. But they also just released an OCR model, which I'm very excited about. So, as you know, processing documents is an extremely hard problem to solve, with given how many different types of documents can be created, the layouts, also too, being able to get it so that, things like accuracy rate, you just can't parse the text that's in there. Sometimes there's images, sometimes there's different layouts, sometimes, there's tables. And when you get some of these things kind of misformatted, it's very easy for AIs to then misinterpret what the actual content was. So DeepSeek created their own once again, MIT license, open weights, open source. I love the fact that China is leading the way in open source. I love the fact that they're openly sharing this information so that we can all benefit from it. I really do love that. But some of the things that I wanted to kind of go over were some of these different types of visualizations and types of things that could be done. So for instance, here's a paper. The very first thing it does is it analyzes the document. It'll then say, hey, convert the document to Markdown. So it's going to try to create this document, which has these weird, these drawings in here. It's going to go through, it's going to parse the figure, and the result is a full Markdown file with those actually put into the Markdown. Another good example would be like maybe it's like an analyst report or something like this, which has all these tables and graphs and different pieces. Once again, it's recognizing the different pieces of the article. So if you zoom, let me see if I can zoom in here. Kind of hard to see, but basically over here it first recognizes each of the different objects that are in there, and then it parses out the figures that are part of that. And as you can see, it then when it creates it in Markdown, it has that figure in there as an image. So it's very, very, very exciting to me as we start to, do more processing of documents and things like that across all of our, especially like answer engine and stuff like that. So, and we can run this ourselves.
So this is a separate model that's only for OCR then.
Yep. Yeah, it's a separate model so basically there's a huge 10x cost reduction. And this was the other thing too that I saw. It can handle 200,000 pages per day on a single GPU. I mean, that is absolutely crazy. So, and when we say a single GPU, they mean I think like the A100s or something like that. This would have been, I mean, to put that in context, you maybe would have been able to get through, like for instance, using like OpenAI's, like basically their regular models for OCR, right? If you just pass images in there, you might be able to get through, 20,000 in a day if you're lucky. So this is huge improvement across it. And it's open source, completely open source, meaning open weights, open model that we can now deploy and make our own.
That's awesome. I'm sure we're gonna get this. The fact that they're doing this open source, this is going to improve the industry overall. Like, I haven't even thought about it, but probably OpenAI has something similar, right? Like, they have an OCR model, and when you're passing an image, they, say, hey, here's the image, come back with the response. Like, it's not the one same model. So I'm sure they're looking at this to improve in theirs.
Well, a typical flow and how I do the documents in Answer Engine is basically you go through, you parse the text, see if you can just parse it, right? That's the first rung, 'cause that's the less resource intensive. And then you have another AI model, smaller one, to kind of give it a score. Hey, is this usable or not? If not, or, depending on whatever your eval is, if it's not, then it goes through an OCR detection to then extract or compare what the data is versus this. So plugging this into that OCR step, I think will even get us better results for some of those.
I think this is one of the biggest wins for technology in the past year. We've talked about like how good these models are, like being an AI. I think sadly, like OCR became something much better.
Yeah.
Like before this, it was so impossible to parse a freaking PDF. And now you just very confidently like take a screenshot, paste it into ChatGPT, boom, you have the text.
Yeah, how many cycles 2 years ago when we were first like to hacking on this with our POCs, how hard it was to parse a PDF. We are using like text
Yeah.
extract from AWS and all these like yeah, now it's like a simple API endpoint with images. I think it's been huge. So
Mhm.
yeah, makes it a lot easier.
One last question, if you have checked,
Sure.
Brad, is there any APIs like we can use? Is this on Hugging Face or Replicate?
Yeah, so good question. So you can view this on Hugging Face. So that is one place that you can use it. You can also use it at DeepSeek's, if you don't mind sending your documents to to DeepSeek. So I'll be looking at how we can actually run this up with our own like A100s on AWS or something like that before we start sending any
Hmm.
documents to it. But it's something I want to investigate as we start to build out that process a little bit better.
Cool.
All right. So one of the things you may have also internally seen is that I put on here on Mondays are 101s. So I want to have a 101 with each of you and kind of I wanted to set the expectations for what I'm expecting for that. So one thing, I want to make sure that you are maintaining the notes for it. It could be a document in Google Drive. It can be, whatever you feel is the best. But my only concerns is that I, one, want to get an end of day summary sent to me. What is your, understanding of what we talked about? What are action items that you are going to be doing this week? And main focuses, and then anything that you need from me, just so that there's clarity around that. Obviously, we want to, automate as much of this as possible, but each person is going to be in charge of their own 101 and making sure that it's kept up to date with the notes based off of, those transcripts, ideally, or however you want to do it. As long as I get the, end of day, summary. Hey, Brad, is this, what we talked about? Is there anything to add there? And then also tracking your action items over the week. So referring back to this in your daily logs, what's there. If anything derails that, kind of course correcting. And then of course, as the week goes, just documenting kind of your action items, your next steps, those types of things. So kind of like, the Monday one-on-one meeting, maintain your own notes, and then your daily log and the tickets. We'll use that time to kind of make sure that we're both aligned on the priorities for the week.
Cool.
Any other questions about this?
So the agenda outside of like the summaries, the agenda for the meetings, is that something you're going to be doing, or is that also our responsibility?
Good question. So my thoughts on one-on-ones is that it's your time. And this is your time to discuss anything that you want to discuss. Is it your work and what's coming there? I need clarity around what we're working on because, linear, ideally, in linear, everything's kind of, it's not a time to just be like, I did this. We have plenty of opportunities. We have our builder logs. We have that. That's not the case of a one-on-one. It's not meant to come in and be like, this is my list of things that I did and there. But it is a time where you can come and be like, hey, I want to focus on this. I think that I should be focusing on this week. Or I think that, hey, I'm going to have a challenge meeting these things. Or maybe there's certain, career opportunities or certain things that you want to, focus on. I think it's really up to you to make that agenda. If you feel you're overloaded, we need to prioritize. Let's put that on the agenda. You feel like you don't have enough tickets and you need some direction. Let's put that on the agenda. You want to just chat about, it's your time, right? My only thing is that we have a clear understanding of what you're going to be working on that week and a clear focus. That's my only thing that I want to get out of that so that we're both aligned on what those expectations are.
So what I'm hearing is like, don't discuss work, don't do like the stand up, like that's the other meetings we have. This is more for how we're dealing with the work. If you're overloaded, we want more work, kind of more managerial one-on-one in a
Yes,
way.
yes,
Perfect.
exactly. Kind of like a mentor mentee kind of thing where it's like, hey, I had some challenges. I mean, we may spend like the whole 30 minutes figuring out something, in laying fuse or something like that. But once again, I think that having that clear understanding of what you're going to be working on that week and focused on, and then my understanding of, and we're agreement on that. You're
Mhm.
agreeing that you're going to focus and get these things completed. I'm in agreement that I'm going to help you move these things out of your way or help, resolve these things or take any action items to help you achieve that goal. I just want to make sure we're both aligned on that. Oh, yeah, this is just a slide about basically automation automation, and obviously we want to automate as much as we possibly can. So for preparing, engaging, documenting, and executing, like just throughout the process, we want to automate as much as possible. Yeah. So kind of next steps. So continue with the documentation system and the content production. I'm going to continue, looking at the gamut. We want to get that integration campaign out and running, monitoring our security and all the work we're putting in with guardrails and all the work that you put in there. It just highlights how important that work that you're doing this week, Max, is, and getting that out there. So yeah, I think just from there, Max, love to increase the builder tips and video production on that end to kind of make that as part of there. Diego, just maintain that momentum and getting those daily logs out there. I'm gonna continue to do any builder tips and kind of the content strategy around that. I have some more updates on where we're going to be going with that, and then we'll continue to track our success metrics across the board for the different content as we start to pump more content out. So, and that is it for today. Any final closing thoughts before we wrap up?
No, no. Just a thought. Maybe if you could add a little bit more of detail for next one about like how our customers are doing. Because I know you're thinking with Adam and you're a little bit more on top of what's going on with Kumelo, Moonstruck, and IAS. Just maybe one slide saying like, if there were any customer requests or any kudos or whatever.
Okay. Yeah, we can definitely have a customer highlight and kind of section in it. Okay. Good feedback.
Cool.
All right. Well, thanks everyone, and I will see all of you a little bit later during our one-on-one.
Okay.
Bye.
Good day,
See
everybody.
you later. Bye.